The glass tower of Caldera Tech gleamed like a blade against the Chicago skyline. 24 stories of steel and money, its mirrored skin catching the last streaks of sunset as if it owned the sky. Inside, the boardroom smelled of polished walnut and quiet arrogance, the kind of room where fortunes were made with a single nod and lives were altered by a sentence. At the head of the table sat Richard Kane, the company's legendary CEO, silver hair immaculate, tailored suit sharp enough to cut, eyes that measured profit the way a jeweler measures carats. He had built an empire on code and charisma, and for years his word had been law. But tonight, the empire was uneasy. Rows of executives filled the leather chairs, murmuring beneath their breath, because Kane was about to make an announcement that would stain the air. "Let's get this over with," he said, his voice a blade of ice. "The Diversity Innovations Lab," he paused, letting the name hang like an inconvenience, "is draining resources. Starting next quarter, their funding is cut by 80%, effective immediately." A hush flattened the room. The lab was not just another project. It was a small, brilliant team of mostly black engineers whose breakthrough accessibility software had just landed national press. They were the only group in the company consistently filing patents that helped disabled users navigate the web. Everyone in that room knew it. From the far end of the table, Amara Lewis, head of the lab, straightened. 35, sharp-eyed, a calm storm in a navy blazer, she spoke evenly. "Mr. Kane, that program is profitable. We brought in 3 Fortune 500 contracts this year alone." Kane barely glanced at her. "Not profitable enough, and frankly, our brand doesn't need side projects to check boxes." The word boxes landed like a slap. Someone sucked in a breath. No one else spoke. By midnight, the decision hit the company slack like a lightning strike. Developers messaged in disbelief. Designers threatened to walk. Screenshots leaked to tech reporters before sunrise. But the real earthquake started quietly, in the inboxes of people Kane rarely worried about. Shareholders, those silent partners who usually cared only about quarterly numbers, began trading late-night emails. Because Amara didn't go home. She went to work. She drafted a dossier. Profits, patents, letters from clients whose businesses depended on the lab's software. But she didn't stop there. She included something far more dangerous, an internal audit showing Kane had diverted millions to a vanity project in Miami, a so-called innovation hub that produced nothing but invoices for luxury furniture and seaside retreats. By morning, the dossier reached Margaret Hale, the largest single shareholder and a woman who hated waste even more than bad publicity. 2 days later, the emergency shareholder meeting convened in the same glittering boardroom. Reporters swarmed the lobby. Employees crowded the hallway, ears pressed to the door. Kane entered first, confident as always, but when he saw the faces around the table, something in his step faltered. Margaret Hale sat at the center, flanked by investors who rarely showed up in person. She didn't wait for pleasantries. "Richard," she said, voice cool as stone, "explain the budget cuts to the diversity lab." Kane offered a thin smile. "Standard realignment. The lab isn't core to our mission." "Interesting," Margaret replied, sliding Amara's dossier across the table, "because this says the lab is the only division with year-over-year growth and 3 pending patents. Meanwhile, you've funneled $8 million into a Miami property with no deliverables. Care to clarify?" The room went still. Cameras clicked from the hallway. Kane reached for the file, but Margaret's hand stayed firm. "You've undermined our most innovative team and misled investors," she said. "That's breach of fiduciary duty." A younger shareholder, eyes blazing, added, "And it sure looks like you targeted a team for reasons that have nothing to do with profit." Kane opened his mouth, but Amara's voice cut through, steady and sharp. "You told us we were a box to check, but the market disagrees, clients disagree, and from what I see, the people who actually own this company disagree too. For a heartbeat, only the city traffic far below could be heard. Then Margaret turned to the table. All in favor of a vote of no confidence? Hands rose. 1, 2, then nearly every seat. Kane's face drained of color. The vote was unanimous. Effective immediately, Richard Kane was removed as CEO of Caldera Tech. Security waited outside the door. When he finally stood, the swagger was gone. For the first time, the man who believed he could not be challenged faced a truth bigger than any quarterly report. Power is only power if others agree to give it. As he walked out, reporters surged forward, questions flying. He kept his eyes on the floor. The following week, headlines blazed across every major outlet. Shareholders oust CEO after racist budget cuts. Stock prices climbed. Clients doubled contracts with the Diversity Lab. Employees who had stayed silent in the past found new courage, their internal channels buzzing with support for the team that had refused to be erased. Amara did not celebrate with champagne or victory speeches. She worked. She met with engineers, checked timelines, and answered a flood of messages from young coders who said her stand had convinced them not to give up. Because she knew the victory wasn't just for her team, it was for every engineer told to wait their turn, every idea starved of funding because someone higher up thought it didn't fit the brand. One voice had started the fight. Many voices had finished it. In business as in justice, silence protects the powerful. But when silence breaks, when shareholders, employees, and customers refuse to look away, even the tallest towers can shake. So remember this: a single budget line can reveal a person's values, and a single united push can topple a CEO. If this story made you think, even for a moment, share it. Talk about it. Because the next time someone tries to cut a future short, it might be your voice that turns the tide.